Hey, welcome back to another lesson. Shalom to you all out there. I want to start off by giving all praises, honors, and glories due to Yahweh, Bashim Shai, Bashim Kadash. Giving double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders. Great millstone. Well, peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect out there. So I found this video called Jefferson's Descendants Wrestle with Complicated Legacy. And pretty much you got two sides of the family, the so-called white side and the so-called black side, and they all descend from this one man. Now, if you have been watching our videos for a while, you probably know the direction, or you probably might have a clue of the direction that I'm going to go in. And with this lesson, I'm going to be talking about how race-based, or not race-based, but race based on skin color is a fallacy. When you go into the scriptures, right, and anytime there's usually a census code or a recording or a genealogy, they usually do the father's lineage, they do the men, okay? And when you understand that, it makes things a whole lot better, okay? It makes the world a whole lot better because now this whole confusion, right? You got these right-wing extremists that swear up and down that the so-called white race is being exterminated. Not understanding that you have Israelites, Negroes that look just like them, and they're just sworn enemies. So the reason why I'm saying that is just to put a notion out there that the real ethnicity is based on your father's seed, okay? And once we establish that, it eliminates all areas of confusion, okay? In this world, you got terms like mixed, right? Um, they do like a white and Asian woman, that's what they call Wasian, right? So it's all types of terms and classifications that this society, this world has came up with. But we throwing all of that down to the spirit of our Yahweh Shem Shai, and this truth is simple, right? The way things work is simple, and simplicity is going to be the solution to all of the earth's problems. Okay, so from there, let me go to this precept. Get this real quick. Cover and cast over all people. This is Isaiah 25, verse 7, and I'm going to do it in the NLT. Isaiah 25, verse 7. Okay, you got different versions. In the NLT, it says, it actually talks about the shadow of death. Wow. This is in the NSRVA, and he will destroy this mountain, the shroud that is cast over all peoples, the sheet that is spread over all nations, okay? And there's a covering sheet. The sheet is used to cover, okay? There's a covering sheet on who the nations are, and the prophets have been given the insight to know who's who. Now, we won't ultimately know based on just looking until we get into the kingdom, but before then, right, we know people's biblical nationalities. And I hate using the word nationality, and I'll tell you why. Because when you go into the book of Acts, right, you talk about Apostle Paul, he was a Roman citizen. So his nationality would be a Roman, just like how our nationality will be American. But our ethnicity is that of Hebrew Israelites, okay? So I'm read as it says, and he will destroy this mountain, the shroud that is cast over all peoples, and the sheet that is spread over all nations. And there is a covering cast. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, let's get that breaking down of strongholds. That's in the book of breaking down of strongholds. This is 2 Corinthians 10, verse 4. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not merely human, but they have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments, okay? And we have been given the unction, as it says, what's that precept? Oop. What's I'm trying to get it off the top of my head. Shall neither gainsay nor resist. This is Luke 21, verse 15. And it says in the AMP, for I will give you skillful words and wisdom, which none of your opponents will be able to resist or refute. So none of our points are refutable. You can't refute them. That's why that comment was left up on that page where that guy said he was feeling conflicted because he's a Christian and he feels like his faith is failing because he knows that it's lies, but some part of him believes that it's the truth. Which, I believe he's an elect, part of the elect. That's just me. Let's get some more. This is in the CSB. It says, for I'll give you such words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. So there is no contradiction when you come to Yahweh Shai. That's what makes this truth so valid and stable. You can't make this with any other doctrine. It's whole. It's a whole pie. Okay? It's a whole pie. It's really the whole, as you know what Jake would say when they're talking about a woman. She's a whole snack. She's everything, this woman. So we have to treat it as such. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and then I'll get a few more scriptures. Okay.
A contradiction of the man upheld as a founding father. Senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami traveled to Monticello, where Jefferson kept hundreds of slaves and fathered children with Sally Hemings, an enslaved woman, and talks with both sides of Jefferson's descendants to discuss how the family grapples with its complex history. He also learns how some are still fighting for the truth to be fully acknowledged.
I have the DNA in me of an enslaved person and a enslaved owner. I can't do anything but what I do have is a responsibility to do something with that.
Arriving in Virginia on a train from Philadelphia, Reverend Douglas Banks is in many ways coming home to fight for the truth. Holding in his 60-year-old hands a drawing of a family tree that some of his white relatives are still refusing to accept.
There's Sally, Harriet Beverly.
He's known all his life that he's a distant great-grandson of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of these United States. A Mount Rushmore-sized figure in American history, who 250 years ago famously wrote that all men are created equal. He's also known that his founding father didn't always practice what he preached, owning slaves and fathering children with one of them, one of the Reverend's great-grandmothers, Miss Sally Hemings.
This is what I have on my bank account right now. This is what I'm getting paid in 6 days, but this is what I need for rent today. So,
Sal?
Very nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, man.
On this day, he's meeting a white cousin.
This is my Hemings descendants.
For the first time.
Initially meeting Sal, family is earned for me.
It wasn't always an easy conversation. 49-year-old Sal Pace from Colorado admits that when he first learned that he had black relatives who the former president had fathered with a woman he owned, he refused to believe it.
I idolized Jefferson as a kid. When I went to graduate school, I
only
studied
thing is that
Jefferson.
this dude is
As a
fat.
young man, it
So if
was
you were to lose
prominent
weight
in so much of my
trim off the
self-identity.
beard,
As a kid,
you have the
I was told
same
a fairy
similar
tale
head
version
structure.
of America.
We all were.
We all were, and it's quite uncomfortable to think about having an ancestor who owned 600 people, and I needed to do some personal reckoning to face the truth about American history.
Where he and I definitely go different directions is, as a child, I didn't appreciate at all being connected with Thomas Jefferson.
Really?
If I could have had a operation to remove that part of my DNA from my body, I would have done it. I absolutely hated the fact that Thomas Jefferson's blood ran through me because
Of how?
because of how it got there. No, I didn't look at Thomas Jefferson as someone to emulate. I looked at him as a monster.
His very distant great-grandmother, Sally Hemings, was born in bondage, the daughter of both the president's father-in-law and one of his slaves, making her a half-sister of Jefferson's wife, Martha Wales, who died 10 years into their marriage. Again, she was someone the family owned, and was 16 years old when she became pregnant with the president's child while traveling with him in Paris, where slavery was against the law. And she was able to get him to make her a promise before agreeing to return home.
So the laws in France at that time were that enslaved folks would have the right to sue. Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson come to an agreement that the child that she is pregnant with at that time and any future children that she has will be freed at the age of 21.
4 of their children would survive childhood and become free Americans, including a son named Madison, who moved to Ohio and became a great-grandfather to Reverend Banks. For more than 2 centuries, it was very much an American secret. But in 1998, DNA test results finally confirmed what the hundreds of descendants of Sally Hemings always knew.
So even when DNA proved to some, it didn't prove to all, because there's still to this moment people who reject that because they just don't want to accept it.
And I've noticed that no other camp except for Great Millstone really speaks on this, the tears. Okay. No other camp except Great Millstone speaks or makes mention of the tears. But when it comes to an Israelite that looks white, they do all types of demonization videos on the individual, trying to disrupt the man's faith. But Yahweh Shai is recording all of that, man. If that man is of the elect, as it says, offending the little ones, it'll be better that you hang about your neck and drown in the sea, okay? And a lot of people in that day will be found shamefaced, shameful. They'll be ashamed in that day. And it's going to be to their, to their confusion. The Lord is going to put them to shame and confusion.
Today, the Monticello Association, the group of Jefferson descendants named after his famous home on this mountaintop, is still refusing to fully welcome the descendants of Sally Hemings into their fold, saying that they're not allowed to bury their dead in this gated cemetery where Thomas Jefferson rests in peace. For now, they're still limiting their members to the direct family of the former president's 2 white daughters. In a statement, they tell ABC News that for over 110 years, we've been proud to bring together Thomas Jefferson's descendants to care for the family graveyard. And as America marks its 250th anniversary, we look forward
They
to...
won't even allow them inside the cemetery, talking about establishing their lineage. Why? Because Esau is in the mindset. He's a carnal man, so he looks at everything as physical. Okay, he has to physically see a person. He doesn't know anything about this. He's not spiritually in tune. He's spiritually tuned on the left hand, but on the right hand, he's not spiritually in tune. That's just how they're made, their genetic makeup. So when they see instances, or when they have instances like this where you have so-called black descendants of the family, they're not going to be too much welcoming of them, because they have that racial notion that they're niggas. Well, they're going to find out that those are their people, and they're going to, be ashamed. You know, a lot of nations are going to be ashamed when Yahushua comes. That's just the bottom line.
Honoring this milestone,
We're breaking down every barrier in society, every lie that's been told, every fabrication that's been made. That's what this troop is doing.
and welcoming all who can establish their lineage. Sal Pace says he agreed with this for years, until the killing of George Floyd and the street protests in America changed his heart and mind.
How hard is it for you to talk about this right now?
I feel vulnerable talking about this, and it's hard to admit
Look
when
at
you're
that,
wrong,
man. Same
but it's the right
hairline.
thing to do.
You can't make this shit up.
There is a black American with keys to this cemetery.
Anyways, I'm going to get a few more scriptures and close it. This is Ezra 2, verse 58. Okay, this is in the AMP. Now, in the heading, it says the number of those returning, just giving you the context of what's going on. Now, these are the people of the province of Judah who came up from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had deported to Babylon, and who returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his own city. Okay, the number of the men of the people of Israel, the sons, descendants, all right, and it just goes on from there. It talks about the sons. Now, we're going to jump to verse 58. It says, all the temple servants, and verse 59. Now, these are the ones who came up from Tel Milah, Tel Hasha, Cherub, Adon, and Immer, but they could not provide evidence of their fathers' households and their descendants, whether they were of Israel. Okay? Tel Hasha, Cherub, Adon, and Immer. Okay? They could not show proof of their lineage, their background, so they were put out, essentially. Okay? They were pretty much treated as apostates. Now, could they have been Israelites? We don't know. They probably were Israelites, but because of the record and how important that was, not having a record, it was a huge thing. You know, that's something that you prided yourself on carrying. Okay? So since they didn't have that, they weren't allowed back into the promised land, the land of Israel, okay, the land of Judah. From there, let me go to Numbers 1, verse 2. It says, the Lord spake, this is the heading, the census of Israel's warriors. Okay? It says, the Lord spake by special revelation to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, tabernacle, on the first day of the second month, in the second year after the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the house of the sons of Israel, by their families, clans, by their fathers' households, according to the number of names, every male, head by head, from 20 years old and upward, all in Israel who are able to go out to war. You and Aaron shall number them army by army. And with you there shall be a man to assist you from each tribe, each being the head of his father's household. And when you jump down to verse 18, verse 17, so Moses and Aaron took these men who were designated by name and assembled all the congregation on the first day of the second month, and they registered by ancestry, and their families, clans. Okay, so a clan is essentially a family. Okay, I love going to the medieval age, but what is a clan? What is a clan? It's like a family, essentially. A clan is a large group of people connected by a real or imagined family tree. Many believe they share a common ancestor. So you have the clan of Judah, which is a tribe, the clan of Benjamin, the clan of Levi. We are all part of clans, okay? And when you go into the Middle Ages, right, the Scottish ages, let's see, Scottish clans. I knew this dude at my old job. He was Scottish, right? And he would always talk about the history of Scotland. He was saying that his line goes back to Stuart. So he would be a part of the Stuart clan. Now, it remains to be seen that if he's an Israelite or not. I had notions, I had doubts, but there were some instances where it would show, because he's heathen, he's heathenized essentially. That's all goes into. That's all part of the issue with the Israelite phone is that they've been amongst the heathen for so long, they start acting like them. But you will have instances where it will show whether they are of Israel, through the Spirit, by the Spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yeshua will show. So these are some Scottish clans, and you can see, right? These are different families, and it all goes back to that surname, MacLeod, Gilvey, MacCole, Campbell, Rose, MacRae, MacLachlan, MacOric. All right, these are clans. So a clan is just a tribe or a family, okay? And it's people that are related to each other by blood. And that's what you have there. You have the clan of the Jeffersons. And the black descendants are fighting to be recognized. Well, you're not going to get that in the society because Esau does everything based on skin color. That's how he sees things. Scriptures talks about, let's get that in the book of Job, be good to his children. To him that is evil. Come on, nigga. It's like this cat jumping all over the place. Come on. Go. Yeah, there you go. You fell. To him that is evil. To him. I'm gonna toss this nigga across the room. Give me 1 second. There you go. Might be hungry. I'll feed him in a sec. This is Sirach. Oh, this is Sirach 14 verse 5. It says, he that is evil unto himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. So if Esau is evil to everybody else, right, to the people, to himself, how much more his own children, okay? So you tares out there, just wait. Just wait for Yahweh Hashem Yeshua. You'll get your recognition soon. Let's go to the book of Matthew, the 13th chapter. And this is the parable of the wheats, right? And weeds. And this is going to be the main part. Well, actually, no. This was supposed to be the main part of the lesson, but I dived into different topics. But it's all through the Spirit. This is Matthew 13, verse 24. And we start verse 24. It says, here's another story how I told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field. But that night, as the workers slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, then slipped away. When the crop began to grow and produce grain, the weeds also grew. The farmer's workers went to him and said, Sir, the field where you planted that good seed is full of weeds. Where did they come from? And the enemy has done this. The farmer exclaimed. Should we pull out the weeds? They asked. No. He replied, you will uproot the wheat if you do. Let both grow until the harvest. Then I'll tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds, tie them into bundles, and burn them, and to put the wheat in the barn. So the wheat represents the children of the kingdom, and the weeds, right, represents the children of the tares, the devil. So let's jump down. Parable of the wheat and weeds explained. Verse 36, then leaving the crowds outside, Yahushua went to the house. His disciples said, please explain to us the story of the weeds in the field. He replied, the Son of Man is the farmer who plants the good seed. The field is the world, okay? And the good seed represents the people of the kingdom, which are the Israelites. The weeds are the people who belong to the evil one. So you have the evil side and you have the good side. The enemy who planted the weeds among the wheat is the devil, right? The deceiver. The harvest is the end of the world, and the harvesters are the angels. So during that time, right, at the end of an age, eon, the angels will come, which are the harvesters. They're going to come down and sort everything out. Just as the weeds are sorted out and burned in a fire, so it will be at the end of the world. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will remove from his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil, right? And that includes 2/3 of our people. They're spiritual terrors. And the angels will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And the righteous will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. And that's in the NLT. Okay? So, yeah, it's very simple. You know, you terrors. You know, we pretty much just have to let things be. You know, you can't go and sort them out unless you cause confusion because they look similar. Alright, so I'm gonna
Now
let
this is just the
rest
sweetest
of this
wallet
video
I've ever
play.
seen.
If I can get through
GPS
these ads,
trackable,
then I'm
trigger
gonna close
engage.
out. Go back to where I was, 522.
For now, they're still limiting their members to the direct family of the former president's 2 white daughters. In a statement, they tell ABC News that for over 110 years, we've been proud to bring together Thomas Jefferson's descendants to care for the family graveyard. And as America marks its 250th anniversary, we look forward to honoring this milestone and welcoming all who can establish their lineage. Sal Pace says he agreed with this for years, until the killing of George Floyd and the street protests in America
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
changed his heart and mind.
How hard is it for you to talk about this right now?
I feel vulnerable talking about this, and it's hard to admit when you're wrong, but it's the right thing to do.
There is a black American with keys to this cemetery.
One of his daughters, Martha, was my 4 times great-grandmother. This is where they're buried.
68-year-old Gail White learned late in life that on one side of her family, she's a descendant of both Thomas Jefferson and his wife.
Wow, so I just want to catch my breath. Because this is the first time I've been in this site alone.
She was encouraged to join the association by a family member who, like Sal Pace, is trying to correct old wrongs.
So you are the first black member
That's right.
of this association.
And my son would be the second. I, as a black person, have every right to be buried at that place of distinction as any descendant. Every right. I don't want to make any presumptions here. However, yes, I do believe that it is more palatable that I am descendant from a different member of the family. I really want people to forgive themselves. I would like to see America acknowledge its complex history, forgive themselves for the some good and the some bad, and move forward. Move forward with a kind heart.
This way?
Yep.
After meeting for the first time, Sal Pace took Reverend Banks to the Monticello Cemetery, recording the visit on his phone. And with a kind heart,
This is yours, man.
he gave the Reverend his key.
It was like you gave me keys to the home of my ancestors. And you can see it says Monticello on there, and it really did something to me. Just because we might have the same blood, to me, family is earned. And so at the end of the day, I hugged him and said, listen, you're my cousin, you're my family. Because he didn't have to put that key in my hand. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate that. And I knew that he was trying to do something intentional, and it was well received by me.
It's what they want for the rest of America, these 250 years later, to hold our truths self-evident, to face our mistakes, and to forgive ourselves for our sins.
All right.
Shalom.
So yeah, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.